Today's video is sponsored by Magellan TV, a wonderful documentary streaming service for all of you big brains out there. Their mission is to tell the great stories that have defined the human experience. And with more than 3,000 excellent programs available on Magellan, it's hard to stop watching once you start. They've got everything from the Greeks to the Great War, plus modern history, biographies, scientific profiles, true crime, and so much more. And their team adds more content every week. And what's one thing you love about paid streaming services? There are no ads, just lots of great content. Now, if you're ready to dive into the holiday season, you can head on over to Magellan right now to check out their documentary, The Legend of Santa, which explores not only the history of Santa Claus, but how different cultures throughout the world have incorporated it. Or if you're more of a classic to Dare Found Out fan looking for highly entertaining war content, you can head on over and check out their 8-part docuseries, Combat Machines. This holiday season, you guys can take advantage of a special deal with Magellan by clicking on the link in the description below. You can snag a buy one, get one free deal for annual memberships. That way, you can give the gift of Magellan and still keep a little something for yourself. It's content for days and days, so let Magellan hook you and a friend up. You'll be glad you did. Link below. And now today's video. Shortwave radio signals, which occupy the radio frequency band between 3 and 30 megahertz, have the unique ability to bounce or skip off the Earth's ionosphere, allowing them to propagate over vast distances. This has attracted a devoted international community of shortwave radio enthusiasts who exploit the unique properties of the medium to listen to and communicate with shortwave stations from around the globe. But among the vast ecosystem of amateur broadcasters, international news services, and emergency communications networks, every so often, shortwave operators stumble upon something truly eerie and bizarre. Take the frequency 4625 kHz, known to radio amateurs as UVB76 or simply the buzzer. First discovered in 1985, the buzzer broadcasts nothing but a constant monotonous buzz made up of 2 distinct tones, repeating 25 times per minute. Every few weeks or so, this buzzing is interrupted by a voice, which proceeds to read out a string of random words or numbers in Russian. The buzzing then resumes, carrying on 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. While the source of UVB76 has been traced to 2 sites outside of Moscow and St. Petersburg, no agency or organization has ever admitted to operating the station. This has led to endless speculation as to the buzzer's function, with some theorizing that it is used to probe the ionosphere for radio interference, others that it is part of Russia's infamous dead hand system designed to automatically launch the nation's nuclear arsenal in case of attack. More likely, however, is that the buzzer belongs to a curious breed of radio stations whose origins lie in the shadowy world of Cold War espionage and which continue to faithfully serve the world's intelligence services to this day. Welcome to the strange and mysterious world of numbers stations. Number stations are nearly as old as radio itself, with the first examples appearing in Europe during the First World War. Their numbers exploded, however, in the Cold War era, with the phenomenon first coming to the attention of radio amateurs around the mid-1970s. Number stations are so named because they typically broadcast nothing but seemingly random strings of numbers, letters, or sometimes words. These messages are transmitted in a variety of formats, including Morse code, phrase or frequency shifting, and voice, either real or synthesized. Each string of numbers is usually preceded by a unique identifier or call sign, which often forms the basis for the colorful nicknames given to the stations by radio amateurs. One of the most famous number stations, the Lincolnshire Poacher, used as its call sign the first bars of the English folk song of the same name, synthesized to sound like a Calliope organ and repeated 12 times. This was followed by a British accented female reading a string of numbers. First heard in the 1970s, the Lincolnshire Poacher initially broadcasted from Bletchley Park in Buckinghamshire, but later moved to the Royal Air Force Station at Akrotiri on the island of Cyprus. It ceased broadcasting in 2008. A similar station called Cherry Ripe, which also used an English folk song as its call sign, broadcast from somewhere in the South Pacific until 2009. Other famous numbers stations include Ready Ready, Allo Allo, The Englishman, The Englishwoman, Oblique, Swedish Rhapsody, Nancy Adams Susan, Cynthia, The Babbler, Squeaky Reel, The Pip, and Magnetic Field, the latter named for use of a song by French electronic composer Jean-Michel Jarre. While many of these stations broadcast in English, not all originated in English-speaking countries. For example, Ready Ready and the Babbler are thought to have originated in Bulgaria, The Englishman in Russia, The English Lady in Ukraine, and Oblique in Poland. The eerie and mysterious nature of number stations soon attracted a devoted community of radio amateurs who began to actively seek out, classify, and study these enigmatic broadcasts. The number of recorded number stations quickly grew so large that in 1993, a station tracking group called Enigma 2000 developed a designation system to keep track of them all. This system classifies stations using a letter prefix indicating the type of broadcast and a number indicating its order of discovery. For example, E indicates a station broadcasting in English, G in German, S in Slavic, V in other languages, M in Morse code, and X in all other modes such as frequency and phase shifting. But as obsessive and meticulous as this might sound, some aficionados have taken their obsession with number stations to even more absurd heights. From the moment he stumbled upon his first number station in 1992, British radio amateur Akin Fernandez was hooked, explaining in a 2004 interview, "You're listening, and all of a sudden, you come across a really strong signal. It's the most chilling thing you've ever heard in your life. These signals are going everywhere, and they could be for anything. There's nothing like it." Over the next 5 years, Fernandez spent nearly every waking hour meticulously recording and categorizing every number station that he could track down. This work culminated in 1997 with the release of the Connect Project. This is one of the strangest albums in the history of recorded music. Named after the Czech word for end, which Fernandez heard often on the airwaves, the Connect Project comprised 4 CDs filled with over 280 minutes of excerpts from number stations around the world, along with a 74-page booklet detailing the background and details of each broadcast. While the album initially sold only 2,000 copies, it had a strangely significant impact on the world of music, being sampled in a variety of other artistic projects, including the band Porcupine Tree's 1999 album Stupid Dream, Wilco's 2001 album Yankee Hotel Foxtrot, and the soundtrack of the 2001 Cameron Crowe film Vanilla Sky. But just what are these eerie broadcasts for? Are they merely pranks, placeholders for certain radio frequencies, or something more sinister? While for decades number stations remained one of the great unsolved mysteries of radio broadcasting, starting in the 1980s, a number of international incidents finally began to shed light on their enigmatic purpose. In 1988, British intelligence detected a strong radio signal emanating from the flat of Dutch national Erwin van Haarlem. London police raided the flat and found Van Haarlem sitting in front of a shortwave radio, listening to a number station based in Czechoslovakia. Code books were later discovered in a hollowed-out bar of soap, and Van Haarlem was revealed to be a Czech agent named Václav Jelinek. Later that year, when the communist regime of Romanian dictator Nicolae Ceausescu collapsed, all number stations broadcasting from Romania abruptly stopped. And in October 2011, when German police raided the Marburg home of Andreas and Heidrun Anschlag, they caught the couple sitting at a shortwave radio receiver, receiving coded instructions from Moscow. When interrogated, the Anschlags revealed that they always received instructions at 6 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays, a schedule that happened to coincide perfectly with a Russian number station known as XPA. These and other incidents have led experts to suspect that number stations are in fact a clever means of solving a classic problem faced by nations trying to communicate with their agents abroad. Secure communication is one of the key pillars of spycraft. Throughout history, spies and their handlers have come up with increasingly sophisticated methods of keeping secret messages safe from prying eyes, from physically hiding them in ordinary objects, a craft known as steganography, to obscuring them using codes and ciphers. But simply rendering a message unreadable to the enemy is no guarantee of security, as merely being caught sending or receiving a coded message can be enough to expose and condemn a suspected spy. And the steady march of technology only made matters worse, for as easy as it was to intercept a letter or telegram, it was even easier to tap a phone or listen in on a radio signal. This was the dilemma facing the All-Russian Cooperative Society, or ARCOS, in the 1920s. Officially, ARCOS was a diplomatic body governing economic trade between the UK and the newly formed Soviet Union. However, intercepts of encrypted Soviet radio signals by the British Secret Intelligence Service, or SIS, revealed that the organization was in fact a front for Soviet espionage activities in the country. In May 1927, the British government launched a raid against ARCOS headquarters in London, where they discovered a secret room filled with workers hurriedly burning reams of secret documents. Realizing that the British had been reading and decrypting the broadcasts for years, almost overnight the Soviet OGPU intelligence service, the precursor to the KGB, changed changed the way it communicated with its agents abroad. Most significantly, the OGPU switched to an enciphering system known as OneTime Pads, randomly generated single-use ciphers whose keys are the same size as the plaintext being encoded, eliminating any repeats that can be exploited by codebreakers. So long as each key is only used once, OneTime Pads are considered mathematically impossible to crack and are an absolutely secure form of encryption. To prevent the keys from falling into enemy hands, OneTime Pads often printed on water-soluble or flammable paper so they can easily be soaked, swallowed, or burned. The absolute security afforded by OneTime Pads allowed the Soviets to broadcast coded messages in the open on common civilian radio frequencies. This way, while anyone could theoretically intercept the signal, only those with the one-time key could decipher it. And as it was impossible to tell who the signal was intended for, this system provided a useful degree of plausible deniability for agents, as Akin Fernandez explains. Quote, "This system is completely secure because the messages can't be tracked. The recipient could be anywhere. It is easy. You just send the spies to a country and get them to buy a radio. They know where to tune to and when." The system, known as OneWay Voice Link, or OWVL, was quickly adopted by a variety of countries, including the UK, which during the Second World War transmitted instructions to the French resistance and other Allied agents in occupied Europe via coded messages embedded in BBC radio broadcasts. Later, SIS and other intelligence agencies established dedicated number stations to communicate with their agents in the field, using the long-range capabilities of shortwave radio to carry their secret messages to every corner of the globe. As espionage expert Rupert Allison explains, "Nobody has found a more convenient and expedient way of communicating with an agent. Their sole purpose is for intelligence agencies to communicate with their agents in denied areas, a territory where it is difficult to use a consensual form of communications." Indeed, while number stations might seem like an outmoded relic of the Cold War, made obsolete by the advent of computers, the internet, and other sophisticated communications technology, in reality, quite the opposite is true. Every message sent on a computer or over the internet leaves a digital trace, making absolute security difficult to achieve without incredibly strict communications protocols and sophisticated encryption. Number stations' broadcasts, on the other hand, are untraceable, efficient, and cost-effective, meaning the system still has a place in the modern landscape of high-tech espionage. Perhaps the most famous recent espionage case involving a number station is the 1998 Atención case, in which 5 agents in the Cuban WASP network were arrested in Miami. One piece of evidence later used to convict the agents of espionage was that they had received instructions from a Cuban-based number station known as Atención. 3 years earlier, FBI agents had entered the home of a network member and copied decryption software from his laptop, allowing the FBI to decode Atención broadcasts. These messages included instructions to recruit local contacts and intelligence sources, a greeting for International Women's Day on May the 8th, and a warning against accepting flights from Brothers to the Rescue, a Miami-based anti-Castro organization. Interestingly, the only reason Atención was known to be of Cuban origin in the first place is because a technical error resulted in a snippet of a Radio Havana broadcast becoming mixed in with the signal. More recently, another Cuban number station was involved in the case of Ana Montes, a senior defense intelligence analyst who in 2002 was convicted of spying for the Cuban government for nearly 17 years. According to prosecutors, Montes received her instructions via shortwave radio and decoded them using OneTime Pads printed on water-soluble paper. North Korea has also made extensive use of number stations, suddenly resuming broadcasts in July 2016 after a 16-year hiatus. This is thought to be an act of psychological warfare meant to put Western intelligence analysts on edge. But what of UVB-76, the mysterious buzzer that barely seems to broadcast anything but its signature droning tone? While no government agency has yet admitted to operating the station, the most likely suspect is the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service, or SVR, the agency to which German spies Andreas and Heidrun Anschlag belonged. And while the buzzer and similar Russian stations like The Pip and Squeaky Wheel do not fit the typical profile of number stations, experts believe this is because they are on standby, kept in reserve for a future conflict or major deployment of Russian agents. The mysterious buzz, then, is likely just a placeholder meant to discourage other broadcasters from using that particular frequency. Evidence for this theory emerged in 2013 when, after nearly 30 years of nothing but buzzing and brief number strings, UVB-76 suddenly broadcast the ominous message, "Command 135 issued." According to radio enthusiast Maris Goldmanis, this was likely a test message meant to bring the whole broadcast system onto a simulated war footing. So, as unsettling as UVB-76's endless monotonous drone might be, should that drone ever stop, it might be a sign that something very, very bad is about to happen. So I really hope you found this video interesting. If you did, please do hit that thumbs up button below. Don't forget to subscribe. And as always, thank you for watching.